Hey everybody, it's Sabrina Henny Live. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. I hope you guys are doing awesome today. Anyway, wanted to talk a little bit about earnest money. I know I talked about this before, and I was kind of out and about, and somehow my phone cut out during that video. So anyway, I wanted to talk about earnest money and ratified contracts. Now, for buyers, before you put your earnest money down on a property that you want to make an offer on, please do not give any earnest money until you have a ratified contract. And you're probably asking, what is a ratified contract? It's when the buyer and the buyer agent actually they make an offer, basically a contract to place an offer on the property. And when the seller accepts, the listing agent will actually confirm it, or if there's any changes on the contract, whoever is the last agent to actually view the contract and approve it will sign it, and then it's a legal binding contract document. So after that happens, the buyer will place earnest money down on the property. Now, not all sellers require earnest money, but as a buyer, it shows the seller that the buyer has good faith in purchasing the property. Just so, because once that's done, the seller then takes it off the market and lets everyone know that there has been an offer made on the property. The buyer and the buyer agent, they have 48 hours. This is in South Carolina. I know I have a lot of people here in different areas. But in South Carolina, you have 48 hours to actually put your earnest money down. Now, if you made an offer on Saturday or a bank holiday, you have 48 hours after that. So, and then after basically the date of the ratification of the contract, the buyer has 10 business days to actually do their due diligence on the property. Now you're probably wondering, oh my gosh, what's due diligence? Due diligence is allowing the buyer to actually analyze the property, maybe do a home inspector, get a home inspection done, a termite inspection, whatever kind of inspection you want on the home. You can actually get that done. You've got to have it done in 10 business days, or you can ask for an extension, and you can do that. And then, so if the buyer decides not to go through with buying the home, as long as they did it within the 10 days during the due diligence process, they will be refunded their earnest money. Now, if, say, maybe the buyer agent or the buyer wasn't keeping up with the time frame and they went over, say they went over to 15 days during the due diligence, no, they would not get their earnest money back unless they actually have a request and sign a release from the seller. Now, this is a document actually done between the buyer and the seller, and it's not actually up to the real estate company or the agents. It's, does the seller want to do that? Now, sometimes people have gone over those and they'll gladly give the earnest money back, but it's not always the case, because sometimes the seller's saying, I had some really good buyers during this period and I could have sold this property meanwhile, you know, you took extra time after the due diligent process to get back to us. So that's where it can be tricky, and that's why it's important to have a realtor or a real estate agent working for you, because some of the stuff can be tricky, okay? And it can be tricky, you know, anyway. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that. So once the earnest money is placed, and normally the contract will indicate where and how much the earnest money is and where it has to be placed. Usually now, it no longer real estate companies are actually holding this in escrow. Most of the time, and it's easier, it's usually held in an escrow account at an attorney's office of the buyer's choice. Normally, that's who picks the buyer. Now, anyway, so they have 48 hours to get this earnest money into the attorney's office. That is stated on the contract, the offer. So, you know, you have to get your earnest money within that time frame. Okay, so anyway, usually the seller or the listing agent, after the earnest money is placed in escrow at the attorney's office, most good buyer agents will get a receipt for the listing agent, so they know that their buyer has placed good faith earnest money towards the property, so they know that they're a serious buyer. Okay, so that's very important. Now, if the buyer agent doesn't do this, then the listing agent should actually make sure it's been done. So someone's probably asking, well, why does the listing agent have to make sure? Well, it's the law. Basically, it's the law that earnest money is placed, and the seller needs to know that it has been placed. Because wonder if it was never placed and they took way longer to do the due diligence process, and maybe they waited until 5 days before closing to back out of this deal. And they already started moving. They got moving vans and all that. And 5 days before closing, the buyer says, I found another property I like better. And the seller is going to say, okay, but I'm keeping the earnest money. That's why it's placed there for several reasons. So the seller will say, okay, but I'm keeping the earnest money because I endured a lot of costs because I've already started to move. And then that seller goes to the attorney in escrow and realize the buying agent and the buyer never put earnest money down. So that's why it's really important that earnest money is placed 48 hours after the ratified contract. Okay? So I hope it wasn't complicated. I know it's a lot of information all at once. Hello, Alan. How are you? But I just wanted to go over earnest money and why it's important that buyers do place it within 48 hours, okay? And once again, if you make an offer over the weekend on Saturday or Sunday, you still have 2 business days to do that. Okay, talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.